Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Relationship Atlas podcast, where each and every episode is as if you are reading the Atlas of relationships. And every page is a new guide, a new map to the terrain of navigating relationships. And today, I'm going to bring in a statement we all know about, a statement we are aware of, one that gets tossed around pretty frequently. And I'm going to incorporate it into the relational scene in an effort to help us relate to our partner better, in an effort for us to handle conflict better, in an effort for us to experience a different life as a whole when it comes to our relationship. Just different experiences and hopefully better experiences. And the phrase is annoying in truth. I know the phrase is annoying because a lot of times the things that help the most tend to be the simplest. And it's funny how often we find ourselves complicating things to get away from the simplicity of how easy it actually can be. And I don't say that to act as if life is easy and that it is this walk in the park and that it's never challenging and there's never resistance. But there is a certain amount of resistance and challenge that we all add on to our experience in multiple different ways in an effort to, well, in a lot of ways, not actually create change or avoid the responsibility of what comes with change or just avoid the necessity altogether. We actually pile things on to make it harder for ourselves. And why I want to reference this phrase is because I notice how much it's helped my life, and I notice how much it's helped my relationship. And I also notice how much it has allowed me to feel more at ease in a lot of scenarios. And it has helped curate a lot of change for myself, just as a general human. So now that I've beaten around the bush for a couple minutes around the phrase, here's the really simple phrase that's probably going to annoy you. But I promise you, if you really pay attention to it, it can do wonders. And the phrase goes like this: change your focus, change your life. Let me repeat it in case it wasn't simple enough. Change your focus, change your life. God, isn't that the truth? And also, how stupid. If you think about it. Because what I'm inviting into this conversation is the power of the mind. We know the power of the mind. We're not unknown to it. And we also understand that we have a body. And so we understand there's two components here. And what I'm inviting into this conversation is a top-down method, a very thoughtful approach to creating change, to handling things differently, handling life differently, and to experiencing life differently. And I understand to the fullest extent the limitations of something like simply change your thoughts. And I want to encourage you as you hear this conversation to just hold that as the reality, that there is only so much thinking we can do until we start to get into the world of our body needs to catch up. Our body needs to also be able to work with this process as well. And so that would be the embodiment side. For those that aren't familiar with that phrase, this is what it means. We're talking about the intellectual side. There is also a very important embodiment side. But today, I want to dial in just simply into the phrase change your focus and you will change your life. And where it's helped me the most, where it's been the loudest is in curating change and in understanding how to move through change without all the suffering. You ever notice how when you start to try to create change, you find suffering in there, unnecessary suffering. When you start to say, this is stupid and I'm so annoyed with this. And I know it's so difficult. And you fill in the blank of your favorite phrase that you incorporate whenever you're trying to make change in your life. And especially change that you're struggling to find the value in and you don't have a clear vision or why yet. You're just doing it because you think you need to. Couple that in with, well, I don't even know why this is really important. And you'll start to notice that you don't really feel very good, either during the change, after the change, whenever you're trying to take on the change, you don't really feel that good. And that doesn't mean that change needs to feel good. But what I'm pointing out here is the way in which you are describing this experience to yourself in your own mind unnecessarily, and how that frame of focus is causing you unnecessary turmoil throughout the journey. So I think to myself of the louder time this phrase has been incorporated into my life and was actually changing a routine. It was my morning routine. I had a pretty solid morning routine, but what I didn't have was the timing. Waking up early was not my forte. I really didn't want to do it. I worked in the restaurant scene for quite some time. So I was working late nights for many, many years. I built this habit and routine of being up late and then having a difficulty falling asleep because then I would watch shows. And I had created this system for myself where I would wake up late. And I remember when I was trying to make the change to wake up early, how difficult it was, because I would wake up and I would notice like, I can't believe it's so early. I can't believe this is just so hard to get out of bed, which is so funny because if you really think about how hard it is to get out of bed, you're really just moving your muscles, but your muscles are ready to move. They're ready to get up, but your mind has a different frame of reference to this. So, anyways, it's hilarious looking back. But now what I witness here is that I don't necessarily think that I have started to enjoy waking up in the morning. Let's not get that confused. But what I have stopped doing is letting the thought train run rampant in the morning of how difficult this is, how tired I could be. I don't actually know sometimes how tired I really am because I'm so busy telling myself how tired I am. Isn't that fascinating? As we incorporate this area of focus for the conversation of change your focus, change your life, you ever notice how sometimes you tell yourself, I'm just so tired. But you ever notice that prior to that, you don't actually really know how tired you are? Not all the time, but I noticed this about myself, that I would tell myself I was more tired than I actually was in an effort to feel more tired so that maybe I didn't have to take on responsibility, or I had a way out, or I could just simply sit down and relax, or I could make relaxing okay because I was so tired. The way we find these systems for ourselves is just incredibly fascinating. And it's all based on around needs. But when I think about the morning routine, I think about now what I do, and I think about how I still find mornings where I will run rampant in my mind. It will go to multiple different places. It won't want to get out of bed. It won't want to go be responsible in the world. It won't want to take on any new tasks. It won't want to do the morning routine. And it just wants to relax or do nothing or fill in the blank of whatever comfortable situation that I'm used to or have been used to in the past. And what I have stopped doing is letting that run. And I have chosen to, maybe Mel Robbins was onto something when she, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 did. But it's the getting up, it's the motion, it's the movement that tends to ease the mind, calm the mind. And this is where I want to jump into the second piece of this for me, which is it's one thing to say, okay, nope, we're not going to do that. That's not productive thought process. That's not effective for how I want to feel. That's not very helpful. It's one thing to think those things, and it's another thing to actually do something. And so that's where I notice the actual physical movement, the embodiment side, tends to make it easier. The thoughts are less rampant. I'm obviously doing the opposite of what they said I should do, which is stay in bed. And so the system starts to make change. The two combined start to really work well. I get into my routine. I still have these thoughts here and there, but at least I'm moving and I'm grooving and I can create momentum. When we talk about change your focus, change your life, what I notice is that I need to move when I do that. I need to physically move in some way, shape, or form. I can't just sit on the couch and try to think my way into feeling like life is perfect. I need to move in a combination with. So even if it's just moving around the house, it's cleaning. Cleaning is a great one where I say, okay, you know what? I actually really think my life is great. And then my mind, I don't give it space to start to have this argument. And I get up and I move around my house. I sweep, I clean the washroom, I do whatever. And that, again, that combination is incredibly powerful. So I'm changing my focus and I'm changing my physical experience. And then what I start to notice is the same thing happens when I'm arguing with my partner or when I have conflict. I'm focusing on where, I don't know, maybe I'm a bad person or where I'm right or where I'm super wrong and I couldn't be more wrong and what's wrong with me or what's wrong with you? You're so wrong. I'm focusing on all these things and I'm stagnant. Like I'm just sitting there and my body is stuck almost. It's like being in a prison cell, but like one that's cramped in the couch right there. There's no room to move and then I'm expected to feel like I can freely think. And so when I walk with Gabby and we walk and we have a difficult conversation, it's so different. It's a lot easier to change my focus again because the two tend to go hand in hand. So, two components here. One is the thought process, the simple directness of change your focus, change your life. If you're focusing on all the shit that happened today, I can't imagine you're going to feel very good. Now, you can focus on the difficulties of things. I noticed that I can still focus on, okay, my day was actually pretty tough. However, here's the things that I got done. However, I mean, I don't really want to spend my time right now not enjoying my relationship. So I need to change my focus to something that's more powerful and there's more meaning to, which is if anything happens tonight and one of us passed away, that would really suck. I would hate to not have lived fully with my partner. My day doesn't really matter then as much as I thought it would, or at least the difficulties and challenges of it all. I get to choose and change that frame of reference. So I utilize that because it's just, what is the value for me in staying frustrated and grumpy and annoyed with my day? And what's the value for me staying in that versus what's the value in me stepping out of that, changing my focus, maybe learning the lessons that I was offered from all the difficult times I had today, and then stepping into, I'm going to enjoy my relationship right now. Yeah, think about how frequently I well, let me step back here for a second because there was a second component. One is change your focus, change your life. Simple, to the point. If you can practice that more frequently, I mean, it's in a nutshell. It stands on its own. Then you incorporate some movement with it. You incorporate the smallest little movement. Jump up and down, do some jumping jacks. The body likes to move. It doesn't like to feel stuck. The two, neither the brain nor the mind like to feel stuck. So the moment you feel stuck, it's probably because you're stagnant. The moment you feel confused or you can't change your focus, it's probably because you're stagnant. Move, 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 move. So the two combined are super, super powerful. Now, incorporating those into the relationship, I kind of already spoke to it. When you are having an argument, my suggestion is to stand up or move around or go for a walk, set up the scene so that you're not just sitting there trying to say, okay, I can really hold this. Oh my God, this is so hard, but like, I'm not going to get angry. And then sure enough, you're angry. And sure enough, you end up blowing your top. Movement always tends to help. And it's funny and ironic that when you intentionally take space, you get up, say, listen, I'm super frustrated right now. I need 5 minutes. You get up, you walk into the other room. How frequently do you just sit there? How frequently are you just sitting there waiting for the 5 minutes to end? You're not. You might be punching your bed. You might be walking around the room. You might be storming around the room. You're moving because there's energy in your body that wants to shift. It wants to move. It wants to change. And isn't that the entirety of this conversation? Your body wants it to change, and your mind is so busy trying to process it all. And you're saying, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to think through it. And your body's like, whoa, I got all this energy though. What are we going to do with this? I'm going to make this real hard for you if you don't do this, if you don't move with this. So, in a relational dynamic, changing your focus can change your relationship. So, you think about when your partner does something that traditionally annoys you, your focus is, that was annoying and they always do this and what the hell. And what you may be missing is every other possible answer. I remember this quote from Suits, my favorite show. And in Suits, there's a one scene where he says, well, what do you do when someone has a gun to your head? And you're like, well, you either give up what you have or you fight them. And he's like, well, you could do a million other things. You could call a friend. You could beg on your knees. You could fill in the blank. He's like, there's 187 other ways or 100, however many ways you could handle the situation. You're just not thinking clearly. Of course you're not, because you feel like there's a gun to your head. So you don't really know what to do. You're under the pressure. But when you slow it down, you realize there's a bunch of different options that you could approach this from. And so in a relational dynamic, it's the same thing. You're just focusing on one example or the other example. You think it's either honky dory and all beautiful days, or it's the worst possible thing ever. And you're not realizing that everything is on a spectrum. Everything operates from here to here along a spectrum. And there's so many different scenarios. Take, for example, we just got into a small tiff, and there was a miscommunication about picking up something that was really important to Gabby, and it was really important to me that we picked it up, and it was less important for her to pick it up. It was something for her, and something that was important for her, is important for her, and I was stressed about it. I was worried about it. I really knew we needed to pick this up, and I was frustrated when we still hadn't picked it up. And as we got into a bit of a tiff and a disagreement around it, I realized that I don't know if she fully understands what I'm frustrated about. And I was able to share with her finally, once I got there, that it was so much less about just picking this thing up. And it was so much more about, like, I care about you so much, and I care about you being at your best and at your top, that this is actually, all of this frustration is actually love. But it's coming out in these other ways, but it's actually love. And why I share this story is because in her mind, it could have been either annoyance or maybe nothing. But her frame of focus played a huge part, as did mine. My frame of focus was, I don't know why you can't see that I care about you. Versus, I wonder if you know that this is coming from a point of care and love. Just a different focus. And then therefore I get to change the dynamic of the relationship. When let's say theoretically, my partner leaves her clothes lying around, my focus is, you're impeding my life. Now I have to clean up after you, versus you were in a rush, or I don't know, you were coming to get it up later. You had a plan. Why does it have to be about me? It doesn't. Okay, well then I guess I get to change my focus so I can change the way I relate to you. When you come home and you're frustrated, or you had a long day, what's your focus? I've had a long day. I'm annoyed. Your focus is, I don't want to have to show up. My focus is, I'm so busy all the time. My focus is, God, I never get a time to sit down and da 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 da. Fill in the blank of all of the ways in which we're piling on the unnecessary suffering and stress in our day, because our focus is on things that are not beneficial, helpful, or productive for the ways that we want to feel. This is every aspect of what I offer my coaching clients. We always work through this mud. So you're getting a free coaching moment right here. Every single client that I work with, we remove the words good, bad, right, wrong. We completely eradicate them from our language, because they are some of the most unhelpful and unproductive language pieces you can use. Why I believe so passionately that they're so unproductive is because they are on a sliding scale that make no sense, that work off of absolutely zero truth. There is no value in those phrases, because who is to say that either way is true? Good, bad, right, wrong. Who is telling you that? You? Your parents? Okay, well, what about my parents? Okay, well, what about my friend's parents? Okay, well, what about the grandparents? What about God? What about atheists? What about Buddha? Fill in the blank. I could counter every single right, wrong, good, bad thing that you think. Every single one. Because there is no ultimate truth to it. So where are you getting your experience for yourself of good or bad? Well, it's probably from your parents, and then you've adopted things from society. And so the focusing on, well, did I do a good job? Did I do a bad job? Am I right? Am I wrong? All of it is so unproductive. What is so, as you can hear, the language I prefer, which is so much more productive and effective, are the language choices that I choose, is to use those words. This was either unproductive or ineffective. And that is simply based on how I want to feel, how I want to show up in the world, who I want to be, and the results that I'm looking for. It's either productive towards me getting there, or it's unproductive. When I really want to make $1 million in a year and I'm sitting on my ass on the couch for 5 days because I just don't feel like it, not right or wrong, good or bad, it's just incredibly unproductive for the goal that I've set out. So when I tell myself, I really want the best relationship, and then I fuck around on social media as a hypothetical, well, is that productive for the things that I want in my life and the relationship that I've told myself I wanted? No. Is it bad? No. Is it wrong? No. It's just ineffective. It's ineffective for the things that I want. Now, your partner might say, well, I think that you made the wrong choice there. Totally. But I made a choice and it was ineffective and unproductive. And what that implores in us is a shift in focus, which is obviously a shift in language that automatically translates to, okay, well, what would be effective? What would be productive? Simple as that. Instead of identifying as a person with being unproductive or productive or ineffective or effective, you don't really identify with those things, but you sure as hell identify with right, wrong, good, bad. And it doesn't really help. Now I'm a bad person. Now I'm a wrong person. Now there's something wrong with me. How loud that is versus, wow, that was really unproductive. Because unproductive to what? Well, good point. So maybe I don't even have to use the language anymore. You can see how we find ourselves in these unnecessary loops that end up in suffering unnecessarily. They kick our ass. And so what I'm inviting here is that small piece of self-coaching. Go out in the world right now and cut out those words. Catch, you know what? Even better, just catch when you say them and notice how you're saying it. Notice the impact of those language pieces, and then see, just for shits and giggles, what it would look like in that moment for you to think about what the hell the goal or the vision was in the first place, and was this productive or effective in getting there? God, I really wanted to feel good about my day, and all I was doing was shitting on myself. Not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just, it was very unproductive for what you wanted. Okay. So what would be productive to get there now? Wow, I really wanted to make 100 sales calls today, and I just found myself on my phone for a couple hours. Okay. Nothing right or wrong about it. Not good or bad. It just wasn't very productive and wasn't very effective for what you wanted. Okay. You can hear the grace and the compassion in there that is necessary for us as human beings. Terry Real, one of the best relationship gurus in the world. I don't think he likes that phrase, but he's a relational advisor, let's call him. And he says the definition of self-esteem is the knowing that you are an imperfect person and still holding yourself in high regard. And this is exactly what we're referring to right here. Hold yourself in high regard, knowing that you're imperfect. You separate from the suffering, you separate from the unnecessary pain that you may be causing your relationship or your experience of your relationship, and you start to just simply identify how often you are getting in your own way. Now, we could dive into the deep delves of why you are getting in your own way and where's the trauma and what's the parental influence and fill in the blank. We could go there. Of course we can. And there's factors, of course they are playing in there, no doubt. However, you are still capable of moving the needle forward at any moment with understanding the ways in which your focus right now are impacting you in either productive or unproductive ways based on how you want to feel, reorienting that focus by combining it with movement. So, for example, I don't like how I'm feeling right now based on the fact that I am thinking all these super negative thoughts about this experience in my life. How I really actually do want to feel is content about this right now. Okay. So I'm going to do something or think something more productive and combine that with some movement so I can get there. Both of those are productive and effective towards what I am going after. It may not be perfect and I may not reach 100% of contentness, but let me tell you, you're sure as hell closer than you just were sitting stuck on the couch. Stuck in the mind, stuck in the body. My friend, my good friend in Toronto, Anwar, he always posts this on his story and it bothers me, but I understand what he's saying. And it's a bit of a motivator. And so it's good. He says, exhaust the body, tame the mind. And this isn't some personal development bullshit. I think it is heavily true. especially today because of how frequently our minds are busy, how aggressive we have become in the world of self awareness, and how the lack of life movement we have now. When you start to realize that if you only have 1 hour in the day because you're super busy trying to impress the world that you have for movement, and you exhaust yourself in that moment and you push it consistently over time, watch how much easier it is to navigate your mental world. And that is a process of changing your focus to change your life. You're changing your focus from, I just need to get to the gym and do my best, to I need to get to the gym to push myself so that I now feel more in control. Okay. Yeah. Why do you want to feel more in control? Well, because it allows me to do ABC. Perfect. So it sounds like it's pretty productive for where you want to go. Yep, it is. Great. What happens when you miss the gym? Well, I mean, I was super busy and I ended up falling short on this. And then, I fell behind on here, and neither good, bad, neither right nor wrong. It just was how the day unfolded. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to take the action to be productive towards how I want to feel. Okay, cool. Is there anything else that you could do right now that would help be productive in that world without it having to be the gym? Yeah, well, I could probably, I mean, I could sneak in a walk here for 15 minutes and maybe throw in some soca music. Nice. Look at that. Now we're adapting. We complicate things. I do it too. So I preach what I need to hear the most. You ever notice that about yourself? We preach what we need to hear the most. So I'm preaching to you this arena, and I'm passionate about it because there's a part of me that says, "Oh, yes. You tell them, because you're telling yourself. You're telling yourself. Change your focus, change your life. Combine movement in there and just start to recognize the small micro moments where when you do in fact change that, you almost forget what you were thinking about, and you recognize maybe later in the day, oh, wait a second, that moved a little something for me. There's always a way. For anyone out there that is thinking, God, I don't know. I don't know. There's got to be something different. I promise you there is. And there's a high likelihood that everything that I'm offering right now, there's a pile-on happening in your mind that's piling on, not a pylon, that is piling on unnecessary restraint, difficulty, challenge, resistance to simplifying it in these ways. And that makes sense. It's natural. And what I want to encourage you to recognize is that is a part of you that is being very protective against the difficulties of change and the newness of change. It takes a lot of energy for your mind to change. That is true. It doesn't want to. It doesn't give a shit how great of a life you want to live. It just wants to survive. And you're inviting it into a world that it doesn't really love. It doesn't want to think new thoughts. It doesn't want to act differently. It doesn't want to change your life or make $1 million. It doesn't care. It just cares about getting through this day and getting to tomorrow. Safe, hopefully nourished. That's it. You're asking a lot of it. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you're going to be met with resistance. And I just want you to witness in small micro moments that it can be hard, but where are you making it harder? Where are you getting in your own way? Where are you playing small when it isn't that difficult to play big? And if you want to ask yourself why, I encourage you to do so, because there's probably a protective part of you that's available there for you to find. But if you don't want to do that, that's okay. Just simply recognize, whoa, I'm really getting in my own way right now. Okay. Boom. Your mind will love that. It will love that. All right, I've butchered this enough. Change your focus, change your life. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be simple. And then we find other aspects of our life where we can put in a little bit more effort, a little bit more work, and take it to a deeper level. But a lot of the work that you'll notice is reorienting the way that you interpret your life around you And a lot of it has to do with simply changing your perception and your focus. That's all for today, my friends. Thank you for listening. This is the Relationship Atlas podcast. I'm your host, Coach Atlas. And if you are looking to take this work deeper, if you're looking to take concepts like this that are quite simple and quite effective and take them into the world of a deeper embodiment where you actually get to explore these things being held in a safe container through this coaching experience, then I really encourage you to reach out and book a discovery call with me where we spend about 30 minutes to an hour getting through some of the mud. Promise you, you'll leave feeling lighter and a lot more clear before you came in. We go through breath every session. We work. The other day, I did one of our dedicated physical movements with my client on the call. That was a lot of fun. We explore it from a human sense and we get to work. Coaching is a forward looking approach. We do some talk, but we do some moving. We get after it. We don't sit and wait. And so, if you're ready for that, if you know that there's a relationship available for you and you want to find out what that looks like, you want to find out how capable you are of creating and experiencing an incredible relationship, then I encourage you to reach out and let's get to work. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a rating. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you want to hear from me. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. Talk soon.